Many of you have already been completely fooled about the mark of the beast. You've been taught to look for a chip that they're going to put in your hand or a mark that they're going to put in your forehead. And then they taught you to completely ignore the Hebrew language, which the scriptures were originally written in order to keep you from knowing this truth. You see, the chapter about the mark of the beast comes from Revelation chapter.
Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone. Salutations to the elect feeding the sheep of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, that's which the world ignorantly calls God. Ba'ashem means in the name of. Yahushai is a true name of the Son, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. His true name is Yahushai. And that is the name, or those are the names in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, which the Hebrew Israelites, the language the Hebrew Israelites spoke, which are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and you Israelite foreigners also, who will look like the heathens, but you come from the seed line of Jacob, right? You are the true Israelites of the Bible. Today I'm going to be speaking about this person, man. A warning to stay the fuck away from this person named John Truth, okay? So basically, this guy, John Truth, I know people who have spoken to him, and the only interaction I've actually had with this person is one time, and this is how I found out this dude was an Edomite. There was like a channel or whatever, like a chat room that I was added to. And when I mentioned the names, this was a while ago, he instantly tried to correct me and said, that is not the correct name. He tried to say that Yahweh was not the correct name, which Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, they are the correct names. And this guy tried to use Yeshua instead. And ultimately, this guy's a fucking Edomite. He's a devil. Okay? And the first precept I'm going to bring out is the book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 4. It says, "For there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our power Yahweh into lasciviousness, and denying the only Lord Yahweh and Yahushai." This is exactly what this guy is doing, bro. And first of all, he is denying the proper names of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai. Second of all, if you see his profile picture, he's definitely butthurt that our Lord Yahushai is a so-called black man, and appears and looks like a so-called black man, even though there's no such thing as the word black, right? This is only if you're an Israelite. But Yahushai was an Israelite man, and you can tell this guy is definitely butthurt. And I heard somewhere this guy also he denies who the Israelites are. He actually thinks they're apparently he thinks there's somebody else. I don't know if he thinks I don't know what he thinks, but he doesn't follow the 12 tribes chart, and he doesn't follow any Great Millstone doctrine. Okay, this guy's lost his fucking mind. Okay, and he's a devil. He's an Edomite. He was used basically to stir up false prophecy, and then he's going to be destroyed. Okay. He also, some other things that he says is, I played in the beginning. I didn't want to give this guy any attention, so I just played with the first part of the video. But he doesn't believe the mark of the beast is the chip, which the mark of the beast is a physical mark that will be embedded inside of the body. Okay, and I'm gonna prove that. Okay, and then also, he also believes that Apostle Paul was that you shouldn't follow the writings of Paul, and that Paul was a false prophet or something like that. And this guy's just fucking retarded. But I'm going to first bring out Revelation 13:16. And he causeth all, right, speaking about Esau, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, so this is not a spiritual mark. Like this guy, he thinks this is like, he doesn't believe the mark of the beast is a physical mark. No, this is a physical mark. It's physically attainable, right? Because if you go into the Blue Letter Bible, right? Let's go into the Blue Letter Bible. Okay, now you can't see on my screen, but you'll be able to see. Let's go here. If you go into the Blue Letter Bible, okay, why is it not appearing? There we go. And you go to Revelation 13 and 16, and then you go down and you go into the actual interlinear concordance. That word mark, it translates to a stamp or an imprinted mark. Okay, of the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist. Okay, this is an imprinted. Okay, this is something that's physically attainable. Okay, and the next thing this guy also thinks is, he's just a denier all around. I'm not going to give this guy too much attention because he's just so bugged out. We're not going to sit here and debate with this loser, right? He also says that our Lord was a strict vegan, and then he was denying the miracles that the Lord did. Okay, overall, this guy just completely lost his fucking mind, and like I went back earlier, man. This guy was telling us to not follow the writings of Paul, right? Well, why the fuck should we follow and listen to what you're saying? Who the fuck are you? Because you're just some lame old dirty ass Edomite, and you come along and just act like you should be teaching, okay? If anybody has the mark of the beast wrong, first of all, if anybody has this wrong, okay, you should stay the fuck away from them, okay? This guy, he's not an Israelite, he's just a loser, man, a false prophet. Okay, let's bring this out. Matthew 7:15. It says, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in wolves and sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves." This guy is a false fucking prophet. That's what he is, man. And you have people actually listening to this guy. I'm gonna pull up a comment. This guy, lifelong bro, he appears to be an Israelite. He looks like an Israelite. He says, "Bro, you are seriously studying truth. Please keep it up." And so this guy has no idea, bro. This guy has no idea, bro. This guy, he's listening to a false prophet. And, let's bring this out. He's bringing people down into a ditch, right? Being... First Timothy 3:6, it says, "Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil." Okay, so this is exactly what this guy is, man. A novice being lifted up with pride. A lot of these people, first of all, an Edomite should not be teaching the Bible, period. All right. Second of all, this guy, not that long ago, these people weren't even following the scriptures. Okay, these people are relatively new to now the Lord he called certain men, right? He called, he said, "What if you let me feed my sheep?" Right? But these people, they're denying certain books of the Bible. They haven't even finished their whole role. They haven't even they're a lot of them just started reading the scriptures, and they're immediately out here, basically breaking things down wrong, okay, saying this chapter shouldn't be here, right? There's another guy that is also knows this person. His name is LG, okay, I'll just call him that. And this guy was denying the book of Revelation, but then he was out here literally just teaching the Bible, trying to teach trying to teach everybody and anybody. And then he was walking out to people's cars, man, and just knocking on their windows, trying to tell people about the Bible. And this guy was denying the book of Revelation. This is why these people need to fucking go. How do I say this? I myself, I'm just a babe according to these scriptures, man. I'm a novice myself, right? But you have these novices, these people, man, that think, because they read a certain amount of scriptures for this long, right? That they just all of a sudden, man, they're gonna go out and just break things down, and then they do it completely wrong. Okay, there was one guy, but Salaki, before I say that, yeah, you have social media. It has these people, man. They might be complete novices, and they think they can just go out and just make these bold claims, but that are completely wrong. And because social media, people think if they have a certain number of followers that that is equivalent to knowledge, and that's not how it works at all. Okay, because the scriptures say what? If the scriptures say, "Enter ye in the straight gate," right? This is not for everybody. Okay, this is always said. This is not for everybody. Okay, this is a narrow path, man. This is not for. We're not here for millions and billions of people, bro. Only the 1/3 of the nation of Israel and the elect from the nation of Israel is gonna make it. Okay, we're not here to save Edomites. We're not here to save these fucking heathens. This is the book of Matthew 7:13. Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Okay, few there be that find it. Okay, few there be that find it. So there's only a small amount of people that will have this that will truly find this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay, it's not for everybody. Okay, now the 144,000 is mainly gonna have a lot more of an understanding of these scriptures, but then you'll have the 1/3, which they're also gonna have knowledge of the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. They're gonna have some understanding of the prophecy. Maybe not as much as 144,000, but they're still gonna have just the Lord is still gonna have mercy on them, right? But this guy, he doesn't even. And it looks like, according to his profile picture, he has an outline of what you see as JC, okay? Because it doesn't look like the so-called Messiah that we know, or description of the so-called Messiah we know as Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai didn't have long hair, okay? In the scriptures, it spoke about it's a shame for a man to have long hair, okay? And so. This is the book of is the book of 1 Corinthians 11 and 14. Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? But this guy has JC in his picture, and he has long hair. Okay, some of the videos this guy has, he still has long hair. Okay, so and let's bring this out. Let's bring out some more precepts. Right, but this guy, he's obviously one of those butthurt Edomites. Okay, let's bring this. Okay, let's bring out a couple of teachers now. Salakia precepts now. Matthew 24 and 24. For there shall arise false Hamashiachs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Right? So when that mark of the beast comes out, you're going to see a lot of these false prophets, a lot of these false teachers. Okay? And it's not going to be possible for them to deceive the elect. Okay? This guy, he's a false prophet. And we can see right through your bullshit, man. Okay? But there are some jakes in his comment section, they really believe what this guy is saying. Okay, if you're one of those people that come across it, this guy, you should immediately block him. Okay? You should immediately just stay the fuck away from him. Okay, and I don't know if you can see, but the only reason I have this guy his account followed is because we use him as an example. Okay, we use him as an example and as a warning. It's for these false prophets. Okay, let's bring out 2 Peter 2 and 1. It says, but there were also false prophets among the people, and just as there will be false teachers among you, they will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the sovereign Lord who brought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. And this guy, he's gonna get a nuke to his fucking head, or whatever destruction the Lord has to this guy. He's gonna get it because he's bringing destruction on himself. This guy is like, it's like, for example, right? It's like a guy or somebody that literally like invests in the stock market or something, and they've already took a big chunk of money and fucking and they lost it, right? They're already down. Maybe they're down 50%. Right, from what they originally had. And instead of that dude just putting his money somewhere else, they continue to go all in or nothing, and they lose even more money. That's called sunken cost. Okay, this is exactly what this guy is doing, man. He knows he's fucked, so he's just trying to bring more and more people down with him. He doesn't fucking care if he's going to be destroyed in the worst way fashion. If he can bring people down with him, right? That's it. Okay, that's good enough for him, because he's already destroyed. This guy, deep down, this guy probably knows he's a fucking Edomite. Okay, he can have this period of time right now where he sits in South Africa with his wife, or wherever the fuck he lives, and just spreads false prophecy all day. Okay, and he can just sit around and just keep talking, and he thinks he's safe. But when the Lord comes back, man, this guy, he's going to fucking slavery. If he doesn't get killed by those nukes, or either way, he's still going into slavery, because we can just respawn him right afterward, right? But he's going into fucking slavery. Okay, so let these people have their followers, right? Let these people have the triumphing of the wicked. KJV. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter, Salakia. Job 20:5. It says, the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite before a moment. That's what this guy has. He only has a little bit of time left. Okay? Okay. So, let's see if we have anything else. Let's see. Micah 7:3. It says, that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward, and the great man, and he uttereth his mischievous desire, so they wrap it up. Okay, now we use to apply this to the false prophets among the nation of Israel, right? You know, like these other camps. But there are certain false prophets who will take money, you know, or you know, take a whatever it is, a bribe, to cover up certain topics, right? You know, like speaking about the mark of the beast being the chip. Okay, there are certain individuals that are literally paid off not to speak about the mark of the beast, or through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. We know this, you know, that certain camps, IUIC, ISCPK, you know, they're calling the mark of the beast something else, right? We know that, you know, a lot of these people are getting paid off because they all of a sudden they start getting, you know, massive, you know, they start coming out with, you know, $10 million lands, $250,000 cars. Where the fuck are they getting this money from? Okay, somebody's paying them. Okay, and I'll put one last precept, Micah 7:5. Trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a God, but keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Okay, so these people are full of shit. Okay, you know, only the elect is sincere. Okay, I have this written down. And watch what you say to a woman. Okay, watch what you say to a woman, because you know you can say something to a woman, right? And next thing you know, they're out here using that against you. Okay, so yeah, man, you know, this is just all I wanted to say. I wanted to speak about, you know, this guy in particular, though, John Truth. Stay the fuck away from this piece of shit. Okay, this guy is an Edomite. He's a devil. Okay, so with that, all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rukak B'dash, Shalom.